As heiress to the throne, all eyes have been on her. But has this scrutiny been a royal pain? And after Charles, will she go from Buckingham Palace to a House of Commons? Diana, Portrait of a Princess, next on Biography.
Hello, I'm Peter Graves. Welcome to Biography. When Princess Diana first came on the scene in the 1980s, it was as though the world had finally had a real-life Cinderella. Well, the fairy tale is over. In its place, a royal soap opera that shows no signs of ending. Among the recent chapters, the publication of memoirs from an alleged former lover, plus Prince Charles's startling revelation in his authorized biography that he was forced into marrying Diana by his father. How is the princess coping with all this? What's her life like now that her marriage is all but over? Tonight, we take our look at this extraordinary story that continues to make headlines around the world.
Good morning, thank you very much for coming today. May I present my vice chairman, I think you know Mrs. Elspeth Thomas, who looks after our UK affairs particularly, and
It's so good to be in the country. We're lucky to get you here.
And we thought we'd just
September this year, the Princess of Wales attends a private briefing with the chairman and senior officials of the British Red Cross.
Over 27 million. And are the general public aware of how much has gone into this appeal? I think so, yes.
For months, she has been secretly preparing to take the new, more active role with the Red Cross announced this week.
Badges on. Excuse me, when was that last on?
Our cameras were present to record this, the latest and boldest step in the princess's search for a more fulfilling public role and a happier private life. We followed the scandals and the controversies of Diana's turbulent year off. But we have also recorded a hidden story, the story of Diana's determination to use the bitter lessons of the past to fashion a new future as a princess, a mother, and a woman. We have recorded extraordinary moments from Diana's private year and talked to those who know her well.
She's very caring, very warm person. Nothing like what you expect.
I think she's actually someone who thrives in a crisis, and my God, she's had more crises than most people have had hot dinners.
And we hear the inside story from the secret source behind Andrew Morton's 2 books.
Now she's having to do a crash course in learning how to develop like most people would in their late teens and early 20s. She has said many times, at least let me learn.
The issue confronting the Princess of Wales at the moment is that she's faced the demons inside Buckingham Palace. She's faced the demons inside her marriage. Over the last couple of years, she's tried to face the demons within. And that's the challenge that she faces, not just as a princess, but as a woman.
Her first public engagement after a year away. Whatever Diana may have accomplished for herself in that time, it seems she can never shed our fascination with her. Diana is still technically our next queen. An anonymous benefactor wants her recorded for posterity at this stage in her life. Like the new Diana, the portrait has yet to be unveiled.
Well, that was what we were looking for. I'm a little bit worried about the highlights in the hair, if you look in the transparency.
Yeah. Andrew Morton's 2 books on Diana have proved him to be the most informed and authoritative reporter of the princess's life.
Fine, doesn't it, in the jacket cover?
His first book, Diana, Her True Story, became a landmark because he was able to name friends of the princess, like James Gilby, as his sources. But Morton has never named his most vital source, a close confidant of the princess for many years.
What people don't appreciate is that for Diana, her true story, one of my most crucial sources, my deep throat, was someone who spoke to me consistently off the record. That person was with Diana during her most turbulent years inside the royal family. That person has stayed with Diana. That person has also helped me for Diana, her new life.
The source agreed to speak to us to help us understand Diana's priorities and concerns today. But fearful of the publicity that would follow, the source asked us to conceal their identity. We conducted a series of interviews off camera, reconstructed for this program using an actress.
We're out of what she used to call the dark ages. Things are a lot more optimistic now. But she said recently, watch this space. They haven't seen anything yet. But the last couple of years have been very difficult for her. But I think now she feels she's beginning to learn from her past.
The young woman who walked down the aisle of St. Paul's Cathedral 13 years ago already knew that the fairy tale romance was not what it seemed to the world.
Oh, I've asked her that. What was the worst moment in your life? She answered without hesitation, walking down the aisle.
One morning, out of the blue, the phone rang, and I just picked it up in the hall, and this voice said, "Hello, is that Penny Thornton?" And I said, "Yes, speaking." And she said, "Oh, this is the Princess of Wales."
Just 5 years after her marriage had begun, Princess Diana contacted astrologer Penny Thornton in despair.
And I explained that much as I'd love to do a chart, I couldn't actually do it there and then because I was so involved with deadlines and everything, and I would do it at some point. And then suddenly there was this pause, and she said, "Well, I would like to have my chart done whenever you can." And I said, "Of course." And she said, "I just need to know if there's light at the end of the tunnel."
What Diana told her astonished Thornton, who remained the princess's astrologer until 1992. Charles had made his real feelings known to her even before the wedding.
Charles had categorically stated to her that he didn't love her. She knew full well as she walked down the aisle that the man she loved did not love her.
With hindsight, it seems he may have told us too.
And I'm amazed that she's been brave enough to take me on. And I suppose in love.
Of course.
Whatever in love means.
Here's a woman who admired the institution of monarchy. She felt that it was an institution that stood for stability, for certain values of honor and chivalry. She had a husband that she believed in, that she loved and was besotted with. So she's been doubly betrayed, betrayed by the institution and betrayed by the man that she once loved.
She knew that Charles and Camilla were seeing each other at Highgrove, and indeed that it was a full-on relationship. Camilla Parker Bowles often acted as mistress of the house, organising and managing dinner parties. Well, she was there frequently. She nursed his arm there. Charles saw no reason for denying what was going on because it was being so well supported. It was so much so that he believed that what he was doing was part of the accepted pattern, that there was nothing wrong with it.
30 seconds.
Gradually, I think she realized she was being taken for a ride. All the time that she was out at functions, he was out playing polo or with Camilla. She often said, "What could I do?" With a husband she couldn't move, the staff were supporting the relationship, who could she turn to? The Queen knew about the relationship as well. But it didn't matter how much she complained. Everybody knew what was going on, but nobody was going to do anything to change it.
So very sincerely.
Diana was shaken that the royal system chose pretense over the truth. But when she allowed her friends to speak out about her unhappiness, she found she was the one in the dock. Morton's second book contains extracts from a diary kept by another close friend of the princess at the time. One entry in June 1992 records the atmosphere inside the royal family at the tense family summits called to discuss the crisis.
The meeting with the in-laws was worse than expected, left her shaken rigid. Heavily criticized for collusion and having brought the family into disrepute, Prince Philip, angry, raging, and unpleasant.
But Diana wanted an end to the public sham of the marriage. She had secured Charles's agreement to a formal separation, a course of action which the prince found almost impossible at first to present to his parents.
During the meeting, she turned to Prince Charles and said, "Tell them, Charles, what you want to say." He stood there absolutely stumm. Diana said, "We discussed all this on Monday." Again, silence. She emphasized her total astonishment that he couldn't speak for himself when his parents were present. His physical proximity leaves her cold.
Alone in Kensington Palace, following the separation of the couple in December 1992, Diana found it difficult to shed her obsession with Camilla Parker Bowles.
Just a few months after the separation, she learnt where Prince Charles and Camilla met. She got herself a large-scale ordnance survey map. She pinpointed the house. She found out the routes that Camilla would take and Prince Charles would take, and she was obsessed by it. She was concerned about it.
By the end of last year, Diana was near the end of her emotional tether. She made a bid to seize the initiative.
I had a call from the palace, from Buckingham Palace at about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, asking if it would be possible to see Princess Diana privately the following morning. We sat on a long sofa, and she said, "Do you know why we're meeting, Geoffrey?" And I said, "Yes, Mum, I've taken a briefing from number 10, but I do not know the statement you're going to make." And she had on her lap 3 pages, and she handed it over to me, and I read it.
Her Royal Highness, the Princess of Wales, would like to make a short statement. Your Royal Highness.
Lord Archer had been charged with the task of stage managing Diana's withdrawal from public life in December last year.
I hope you can find it in your hearts to understand and to give me the time and space that has been lacking in recent years.
When I'd read it, I mean, it had brought a little tear to my eye, so I wondered if other people in the audience would say this is very sad. And I said, I must ask you, Mom, if you feel you might break down, you might find it all too much, because this is a very dramatic 3 pages, and with an audience of a couple of thousand people, it might be quite a strain. And she said, "No, I've read it several times, and I've gritted myself against that happening."
And for that, I thank you from the bottom of my heart.
There was agreement behind the scenes that Diana needed a rest, and her husband's reputation needed a boost. But a suspicious Diana was not content to place her fate in the hands of the palace system. She took control herself, masterminded her own escape plan, and kept it under wraps from her husband's camp.
Biography's profile of...
In March this year, the Princess of Wales took her boys Harry and William on holiday to Austria. For Diana, it was the first major public test of whether she could put her new priorities into practice. Diana wanted a quiet family skiing holiday. Although it was not known at the time, she had ordered that there should be no bodyguards in attendance, even for the children.
She didn't want any bodyguards. Scotland Yard did. Diana insisted that she went alone, that her boys went unaccompanied. Scotland Yard were overruled by Diana. Then Diana was overruled by the Queen. She said, on no account must William and Harry go without bodyguards. Diana's ace, as it were, was trumped.
Diana's wish to be free from the constraints she associated with the royal system also included the press, but her behavior caused confusion.
Well, I mean, there is an endless fascination with the Princess of Wales, and somehow now that she's separated from Prince Charles...
At times, she flirted with journalists and photographers. At times, she objected to their presence on the slopes.
She skied right up in front of the French photographer, laid down in the snow in front of him and said, "Hey, is that too close for you?" And he had a 500mm lens. Lawrence, I promise you, go and ask Mike Long.
The confusion which resulted provoked more tension with the palace machine as the Queen's deputy press secretary was left to fend off an angry press corps. Diana frequently took control of press relations herself.
She was at lunch and there was photographers outside, and she came out of lunch and came across and basically said, "These lenses are very daunting for the children, and could we please leave her alone?" It was at that point where I said, "You can't go from being the world's most photographed woman to not being photographed at all." And she said, "I understand that. But," she said, "when I'm with the children, it really frightens them, and she doesn't want it."
Lech exposed Diana's naivety in expecting the media interest in her to come to a sudden end. Instead, she came under fire for courting the limelight she apparently wanted to escape. The months ahead were to raise many more questions about her state of mind and even her choice of men. The Lujod tennis ranch near Malaga in southern Spain.
Sorry, Jenny. Sorry.
Hairdresser George Guy has a salon at the ranch. One day last May, he found himself helping a stranded princess and her friends whose travel plans had gone wrong.
I told them to get into my car, as I'd take them down to where I believed that they needed to go. And pile their baggage in my car. Princess Diana got in the car, sat on a load of cookery books and cat food. I'd had a particularly difficult week, and I was in my prayer time. I'd prayed for a little bit of light relief, and I didn't think that God would send me the Princess of Wales.
As often, Diana was drawn to the suffering of others.
I told her that I'd lost all this money, that I had nowhere to live for 3 years, that I'd got mega personal problems with a boyfriend who I'd been with for 22 years. And she was understanding and caring.
One of Diana's friends later told George that the princess could not stop talking about him throughout their stay. Moved by his problems, she had made a pointed remark to George about her own.
After we'd got to the hotel and we talked about this, we'd stayed in the car, and it was a very emotional thing. She reached over, she put a hand on my shoulder, and she said, "But at least you're free."
Meanwhile, Spanish paparazzi were soon on the scene. Diana's legendary ability to spot photographers at 100 yards did not fail her, but perhaps her common sense did. Disaster struck for the princess when she was allegedly snapped topless. There was frenzy as George fulfilled the promise he had made to take the royal party back to the airport. The possible existence of topless photographs of the Princess of Wales had turned a weekend break into a media sensation.
Can we have a nice picture, please?
The envelope, George. Ma'am, do you... Please, over here. Take a left this way. Where's the left here?
truth now.
Back home, Diana brought the crisis to a new pitch by arranging a secret rendezvous with journalist Richard Kay. But the meeting was photographed, adding to the headlines and the criticism she faced over her behaviour.
We're just turning into Beecham Place, which at one time used to be Princess Diana's favourite spot for lunch.
Mark Saunders is one of the most persistent of the paparazzi who follow the princess daily. From his own account, Diana can be remarkably relaxed when she comes face to face with the press.
She said, "Who do you sell your pictures to?" And I said, "I sell them to anyone." And she said, "Yeah, lines the wallet well, though, don't they?" And I said, "Well, yes, but, you know, it is still just a job." And I asked if I could take a picture of her. And she said, "A picture of me now? No, I don't think so." And I said, "Oh, well, make me a few bob." And she said, "Well, how would you like me then?" And I said, "Well, topless would be nice." And she laughed and said, "Yes, that would be nice," or something along those lines. And I said, "Yes, I could retire tomorrow with that."
But often during the past 12 months, Diana's behaviour has suggested that the pressures have taken a heavy toll. The frequent visits to a variety of alternative therapists have also prompted much comment about her state of mind.
You really could divide them into two categories. The first is that trying to get rid of the anger that she feels. She's got 10 years of bitterness and that sense of betrayal, and so she goes for therapies such as colonic irrigation. She goes to see a boxer to do boxing therapy. She says, "I've got to release my anger. I've got to deal with my anger before I can make progress." The other side of the therapies are the massage, the aromatherapy. She's paying for affection. She's a tactile person. She's an affectionate person.
But the speculation about Diana's state of mind intensified in August when the nuisance phone call scandal suggested hard evidence of disturbed behaviour. Diana was accused of making over 300 calls to the home of art dealer Oliver Hoare in an 18-month period. When the call was answered by Oliver Hoare or his wife Deanne, the caller would remain silent. One call, said to have been answered by Mrs. Hoare, was abusive. Most of the calls were made from Diana's private line inside Kensington Palace. Calls were also made from her sister's house and from phone boxes near the Kensington area.
I received a phone call from a contact of mine. He asked me if I could meet him in central London to discuss the issue. I did. I went there to do a work of reporting. When I got there, after a few minutes, the Princess of Wales drove up, not with my contact, but quite alone.
Once again, Diana turned to Richard Kay in her moment of crisis, and once again their rendezvous was photographed.
Why does she call you? Why do you get on?
Empathy, I think. I don't know of any other reason why we should particularly get on. I mean, she knows me as a journalist.
Diana had a defense ready against the allegations.
She provided evidence for me that I independently checked and found to be true, that she could not have made a number of those calls. Well, if she didn't make a number of them, then we have to question the veracity of the rest of the allegations.
But from Diana's own account to our source, there seems little doubt that she herself was responsible for the majority of the calls.
As far as putting the phone down, I think, very understandably, she realised that what she was seeking was solace and advice, and that was taking up an awful lot of his time, so that when the wife answered the phone, partly through embarrassment and partly because she didn't want to speak to Mrs. Hoare, she decided to end the conversation at that point.
Biography's profile of Princess Diana, or a look at Princess Diana.
Halfway through her year off, Diana presented a confident figure to the world on the night of her husband's famous admission of adultery. Diana's response seemed to be, "Look what he gave up." As she stepped out as guest of honour at the annual gala of the Serpentine Gallery, the black evening dress and pearls created an unmistakable contrast with Camilla Parker Bowles.
She was very relaxed, very funny, had liked some of the exhibits very much, had thought others awful, in other words, was just like myself or any other human being. And she was looking terrific.
She was in excellent form.
She was very amused by her meeting with Jeremy Irons at the Serpentine Do. She said to him, "You haven't been around very much lately." And he said, "No, I'm taking a year off from acting." And she said, "So am I."
Help them by turning in.
Prince Charles's revelations in his documentary that he had resumed his relationship with Camilla in 1986 did not set the record straight as far as Diana was concerned.
I don't think she believed it. Well, it was such an unlikely date that the issue of truth was never even really discussed. She just gave a wry smile and said, you know, he would say that, wouldn't he? She was beyond calling him a liar and an adulterer. If he wanted to choose one date rather than another for his documentary, then so what? It didn't make any difference.
Diana remains bitter about her rival Camilla, but no longer as preoccupied by her as she once was. This summer also saw the royal wedding of Lady Sarah Armstrong-Jones. A fortnight before their own 13th wedding anniversary, it was the first occasion this year attended by both Princess Diana and her husband. Any hopes there might have been of a reconciliation between the couple seem remote, given the state of relations between them today.
I see. Quite clearly they don't get along. They haven't got along for a very long time, and they clearly don't even like each other much anymore.
The question of divorce is high on the agenda. For Diana, it could be a crucial step in building a new life. But the issue also has deep constitutional implications.
If the Queen died tomorrow, Prince Charles would automatically become king, and he would become king the moment she died. Princess Diana, assuming there had been no divorce, she would automatically have the title of Queen Consort. Nothing could stop that.
The spectre of a separated Charles and Diana as king and queen together on the throne would leave the monarchy open to ridicule.
It is, of course, usual, and always has been customary, for coronation to apply both to the new king and his queen consort. But it would be very difficult to imagine that happening in a case where they were separated. It would look ridiculous and absurd and divisive, and it's hard to imagine it occurring.
A divorce would deeply distress the Queen Mother, and no action on the subject is expected in her lifetime. It is, however, a pressing issue and a major source of tension between Charles and Diana.
Going back to last year, there was a curious conversation when Charles phoned up and asked her had she made a decision about the word. And she said, "What word is that?" And he said, "The D word." And she said, "What D word?" And he said, "Divorce," almost in a whisper. See, the princess has always felt that everyone is waiting for her to make the decision when she feels that it should be him who makes it. She has no need to be divorced. He possibly has. And of course it would be a lot easier for those in the palace organization if she were the one to make the decision, because then they could blame her for it and she could be the Black Lady again. But unless somebody walks into her life and she feels she wants to free herself to remarry, she's no need to be divorced.
If she were to divorce, Diana would be one of the world's most eligible women. She's not blind to the attractions of men, and over the years has had a number of male friends and confidants. In October this year, she was accused of adultery herself in a book which claimed that she had had an affair with ex-Guards Captain James Hewitt.
There was a sexual chemistry between them. She has a strong romantic streak. And here was a soldier, looked good in uniform, well-groomed, easygoing. Well, she was attracted to him. He fulfilled a romantic dream in her life when she was at a very low ebb.
This is the only film of James Hewitt to date, ironically opposing Prince Charles on the polo field. The princess has denied to friends that the relationship with Hewitt was the passionate love affair described in the book.
She has always said that she didn't have the strength of feeling for Hewitt that he had for her.
Virtually every relationship that Diana's ever had with a man has ended up in tears. Barry Manicky, her bodyguard, who she became very close to, died in tragic circumstances. James Gilby, the relationship with him came back to haunt her with the Squidgegate tapes, very cruelly. James Hewitt betrayed her by selling his story. And then, of course, we've got Prince Charles, who had the ultimate betrayal by having effectively a surrogate marriage with another woman whilst she was still married to him.
But despite the betrayals, Diana has told her friends that she does wish to remarry eventually.
She's often said that she would like to have a daughter, or maybe even 2 daughters. And if the right husband came along, someone she could trust, I think she'd only be too pleased.
Diana knows well the pressure she and any future man in her life would face.
There was one occasion, relatively recently, where she left Kensington Palace, she stopped in Regent's Park, and a man was there waiting, obviously pre-arranged. He got into the boot of her car, and they drove off. Bizarre behaviour, but under the circumstances where she knows that every man in her life is a paparazzi's dream, she wants to stop them from getting that picture.
The men at the heart of Diana's priorities today are her children. Last July, Diana took the boys to the royal tournament. William is now 12, his brother Harry 10. Since the separation, Diana has had less time with the boys than she has been used to, as access to the children is now formally divided between the 2 parents.
Well, it's done in a rather cold, arithmetic way. Charles and Diana go through their respective diaries with each other at the beginning of the year, and they have the boys' diaries too. They know when the holidays, the half-terms, the weekends out are, and they simply divide it up. It is then committed to writing through the princess's solicitor and Charles's lawyers, and it has worked extremely fairly. This year, so far, each parent has had the boys precisely 69 days each. The weekend outs and the holidays and half-terms, it's fine, it's sort of set in stone. But there are occasions when Charles and Diana both want to see their children, understandably. A case in point was on July the 1st. The Prince decided he'd like William to accompany him to Carnarvon, where he was marking his 25th anniversary as Prince of Wales.
When Prince Charles's staff phoned the school, they were told that the princess had already arranged to have the boys that weekend to celebrate her birthday.
Biography will continue in a moment here on A&E. Look at Princess Diana.
The Princess of Wales jealously guards her role as the boy's mother and is sensitive to any attempt to limit her influence. The appointment of 28-year-old Tiggy Legg-Burke to take the place of their usual nanny when the boys are with Charles was seen by Diana as an attempt to create a surrogate mother for the boys.
Oh, she's very angry about the way Tiggy Legg-Burke has been quietly introduced. Well, not so quietly. Rather overconfidently pushing her way in on the boys, as though she had some divine right to steer their lives.
On holiday with their mother in Spain this summer, the boys enjoyed jet skiing while Diana this time successfully avoided the paparazzi. Despite their privileged lifestyle, she wants the boys to have as normal an upbringing as possible. Diana is determined not to abandon the boys to the kind of emotionally deprived royal upbringing which blighted her husband's childhood.
It's a fact that the Queen was away a good deal when Charles was growing up, that he perhaps was deprived of much of the mother love that she has lavished on William and Harry. And maybe she does think that as a result he's a colder, a less emotional man than she hopes William and Harry will become.
Diana also has her own strong views about how the boys should be prepared for their royal role in a modern society.
She wants them to understand that it's not all about public schools, that not all the children in this country are white, rich, who have holidays 4 times a year in Barbados or wherever, but there is a sadder side to society here, and she wants them to have an appreciation of that.
Last June, she took the boys to visit an emergency night shelter for the homeless in the Vauxhall area of London. For Diana, the task of preparing her sons for their unique future is an urgent one. She believes that responsibility will fall on their shoulders early in life.
We discussed the whole future of the monarchy. She knew I was edging around the fact that I wasn't too sure whether, Charles would make it as king. I wasn't sure, but I was sensitive and I didn't want to come out with such a bold statement. Remember, she took a photograph of Charles and said, oh, it's all right, it's all right. I've known he'll never be king and I'll never be queen. So there was always an awareness of the ultimate destiny.
Diana believes it is her son William who will be the next king.
That's a major part of William's life, and another reason that she realizes her responsibility as his mother. I don't know if she's told William, but she often says that William once said to Harry, "It's all right for you, Harry. You can be a fireman if you want to."
Just as Diana has recognized the role she wants to play as the boy's mother, she has also taken charge of reshaping her own role. In the past, she has felt manipulated by the royal system.
She called herself the biggest prostitute in the world in the summer of 1993, where she was entirely disillusioned with her royal life and just the round of royal duties, where she felt she was just being handed out like a tube of Smarties, that the courtiers would organise for her to go to a hospital here, to a town hall there. And she just felt that she was a puppet being manipulated by the system, and that she wasn't doing anything that she wanted to do. She wasn't exploring any of the areas that she wanted to explore.
On a June evening this year, Diana arrived unannounced in the Bull Ring near Waterloo Station to meet the homeless who live there. She asked a young woman to show her round. Accompanied only by members of the charity Centrepoint, who had arranged the visit, she spent the evening listening to the stories of the men and women of Cardboard City.
She woke me up. I love her.
She was interested in how we manage and how we cope down here.
Yeah, she came over and then asked me if I didn't mind if she would have a look in my bash, we call it, but, if she could have a look in my house. And I said, yeah, be my guest sort of thing.
Can we have a look as well?
Yes, certainly. She was quite impressed. I got a bed and asked me where I got it from, and explained I found it in the skip, and got it here. And she was rather impressed with that. Other thing she said, because the way I'm dressed, just shorts on, sort of me hat. She said, "Oh, I see you're dressed specially for me," sort of thing. And I just cracked a joke saying, "Well, we Savile Row suits in the cleaners at the moment."
Diana's visit came just 1 week after a speech by Prince Philip declaring the end of poverty in Britain and a call by John Major for the streets to be cleared of beggars. The timing was not lost on the beggars themselves.
I was quite impressed myself, personally, to be honest. It's just nice to see somebody who I know cares come down.
Diana is patron of 69 charities. It has become increasingly clear to her friends that she wants to exchange the role of glitzy figurehead for a more fulfilling involvement with fewer organizations. For 12 months, Diana has been working quietly out of the headlines, putting her plan into action. This year, she has made several private visits to her favorite charities, including the Women's Refuge Centre in West London.
She has an ability to validate people. She has a quality of empathy and shows people that she understands their feelings and their experiences. She's very caring, very warm person. Nothing like what you expect
The minute he'd be hitting you, the next minute he'd be crying.
Yes.
And then you'd have to be the mother, having been the abused wife beforehand. Remember that? You saying that?
Last year, Diana helped convene a therapy session at the refuge.
It was so interesting. Sometimes when I came here last time, we did a group session, and you asked all the ladies to name something positive they'd done in the week.
Yes.
And it was quite a stumbling block for some of us.
Yes.
Because people had to really think. If you asked them what the negative aspects of the week had been, you would have been flooded. But
Yes.
because it was positive, we all had to really think hard. Do you remember?
The skills which Diana brings to encounters like these impress charity professionals and clients.
I mean, for the first few minutes she was there, she was Princess Diana, and then after that she was there sitting with Sandra, and everybody was discussing and talking about their feelings and expressing, some actually breaking down, some crying, as normal women would do, having gone through such emotional crisis in their life.
She doesn't leave you feeling as though you've been eclipsed by her. She leaves you feeling as though you are as important as she.
But don't you think it's positive coming here and sharing something which has been hurting you for so long?
Yeah.
Don't you think?
Yeah, that is, yeah.
We think that, don't we?
Yeah.
We do.
She's elbowed me on occasions and said, we women, we're the stronger sex. We have to stick together. Jokingly, of course, but I think through the groups and listening to the staff talk about the social attitudes to women and domestic violence, she's gaining a good understanding that women are disadvantaged in our society.
So our keynote speaker is Her Royal Highness, the Princess of Wales.
For decades, tranquilizers and sleeping pills and antidepressants have been given to generations of women.
Diana's public acknowledgement of her own problems suggests that her charitable work is as therapeutic for her as for those she is trying to help. During her visit to the Wakefield Drug Project in May last year, Diana impressed members of a self-help tranquilizer group with her sympathy for their situation.
She seemed to understand all about the withdrawal symptoms that we all had and everything. She sort of asked us, you know, like, do you have sleep problems or panic attacks and things like that? Yeah, she was very good.
In fact, she gave me the impression that she already had probably the same trouble in her life, I thought. Didn't you?
Mm.
Seems to know more than the average person knows about these things.
Yes, she did, yes. What kind of things?
Well, depression and anxiety. She mentioned those 2 points, didn't she not?
Yeah, she did, yeah. She asked me what tablets I'd been on.
She was very relaxed and very talkative, and, you know, same as Doreen says, she made herself at home.
Biography's profile of Princess Diana. To our look at Princess Diana.
Diana's empathy for victims of suffering is well known, but in the last year she has been pursuing a new goal, to put her experience and skills onto a more professional footing.
International Federation of Red Cross and Red Crescent Societies with the...
Diana has taken on a demanding new role as patron of the 125th anniversary of the British Red Cross.
And
she will be expected to help steer a crucial period in the life of the organisation.
the relevance to the British Red Cross.
The Red Cross enables the Princess to bring together many of the elements she now considers to be important in her working life. Diana has travelled to Geneva 3 times this year to attend meetings of a top-level international Red Cross committee. She is one of the 12 members charged with advising the Red Cross movement on how to respond to global problems.
The president of the International Federation had 3 personal appointments to make, and he invited the Princess of Wales. He felt that she would bring a fresh viewpoint and a modern viewpoint because she had seen the work of the Red Cross both within Britain and on her visits overseas, and therefore had a very fresh and perhaps very independent view.
Diana is to be as active abroad with the Red Cross as at home. Last year's visit to Nepal is to be followed early next year with an official tour to Japan. These developments underline her success this year in achieving change on her own terms.
Due to the recent developments in the British press, what are your feelings as you go back to your country today?
I've had a very interesting and valuable visit, And I hope we can now look forward to the future and not hang on to the past.
I see. It means you have confidence in the future?
I do. Thank you very much.
The Mistress of Signals has made a rare statement in words about wanting to move on. She's back in the royal fold, but this time as a royal who can call her own shots. She's beginning to find a place for herself in the world, and perhaps a more fulfilled and contented life.
The world once had great hopes that Charles and Diana would create a dynamic British monarchy for the 21st century. But now many British politicians are demanding that the couple divorce as soon as possible. They feel that Charles and Diana have made the royal family a worldwide laughingstock. Some officials are even calling for an end to the monarchy itself. The saga continues. And now, let's see what's coming up on our next biography.
He was a fighter, not a tactician. Despite a notice of...
Jack Perkins and me, weeknights on Biography. I'm Peter Graves. Thank you for watching.
He fought toe-to-toe with the mighty Japanese Navy. We'll meet Admiral William Halsey Monday on an all-new Biography.
Now join us for an all-new investigative reports next on A&E.